Welcome to the Parentline podcast, where we discuss the joys and challenges of modern parenting and explore how we as parents can give our children the best start in life.
Hello and welcome to another Parentline podcast. So today's podcast is all about top tips for surviving Christmas as a parent, and I'm delighted to welcome Julie along. Hi Julie.
Hi Ellen.
So can you maybe tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself?
I'm delighted to be back, Ellen. Thank you for asking me. I am a parent support officer with Parentline Northern Ireland, and my background is in counselling both adults and with children.
Brilliant. Thanks, Julie. So Christmas.
Yep.
We're coming up to Christmas now. And I have to admit that, when Christmas is over, I think to myself, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to buy so much stuff. I'm going to be well prepared for next year. So what top tips can you offer for parents that, it's coming up to Christmas? So how can they prepare for it?
I mean, I think the best part of that was after Christmas,
Yeah.
I think what happens is that it's either been so stressful that we go, do you know what, I'm very happy not to think about this until I absolutely have to, or else we go into this sort of mode of it's going to be absolutely perfect next year, and that is the myth. And really that is what we're dealing with when we're talking about Christmas now, because think of everything about Christmas. It starts flip's sake in September, think of all the songs, it's the most wonderful time of the year. 'Tis the season to be jolly. We even have names for people who don't enjoy Christmas. They're Scrooge or they're Grinch, but even Scrooge and Grinch come Christmas Day are like happy and loving in it all. Christmas cards, TV programs, films, all of this sell us this myth of this perfect, wonderful Christmas where everything that has gone before is going to be fixed. So that is the first thing, is to recognize that is a load of nonsense.
Yeah.
That's we do actually need to accept that, because if we start off by going, it's going to be so much better, it's going to be best, it's going to be brilliant, we're already sort of buying into the myth, and it is a myth, So part of it is actually recognizing that I want to have certain things in Christmas and working towards that. Remember the time of year as well. It's the sunlight's gone.
Yeah.
People are already sort of feeling a bit low. And then we've got a brace of lights. Every time you go into a shop, there's songs, there's noise, you're roasting hot inside, then you go out and you're wet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all sorts of sensory attack that we have. Then throw away the fact that, our routine goes out the window. I mean, I personally could do with a sign around my neck saying, could somebody tell me what day it is again, please? Because we just lose it.
Yeah.
And part of that is that, the routine that gives us stability. Stability makes us feel safe and secure. Those wee boundaries that are just gone out the window of Christmas. So when we sort of sit back and go, holy moly, we're up against this, we can actually sort of step back and go, no, I don't really need to buy into that.
And I guess that is actually something that's very interesting about this perfect Christmas.
Yeah.
I have in my head, as you say, all the films and stuff that, we're supposed to do this, or we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to get along with our families. Even if they're there 24/7 and we can't go out because of the weather. So how would you help parents that are inside? They've got all the family around them, and they've got the kids playing about, and everyone's in close proximity, and they're fighting and arguing. What advice could you offer them?
I would tell them to go on holiday. Get out quick. No, I mean, I think it's back to preparation. We consistently underestimate the time it takes us, or the energy it takes us to do anything. And I suggest always a list.
Okay.
I would do a list of things that I have to do. Okay, so you decide what's going to be on your have to do list, because remember, we're sort of rejecting what's being fed to us.
Yeah.
Okay, so that might be I have to have certain relatives over for Christmas. That's just too much bother, too much stress, would cause too much problems. That's what I've decided to do. Okay. And then we have another list, And our other list are things that we would like to do.
Okay. Yeah.
So these are things that would be really nice, but not imperative, So that might be, I'd like to sit in a chair rather than a coffee table with two cushions.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and then if you can push it out, another list, which is things like I really, really like to do. So that's when we're talking about, an Nigella Lawson pavlova or something like that.
Yeah.
So what we can do then is we can go from our I have to do list. And that is the priority. That is what we get done. Okay. And that in itself reduces the stress of the day.
That's very
okay.
good. Yeah.
So what we can say is, I have to be aware that I go a bit bonkers on Christmas Day when I'm stuck in the house.
Yeah.
So I have to make time that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I go outside, or I make it a plan that I allot jobs for visitors to do, whether that is play with the children, could you take them out the back?
Right.
It's really just taking priority over what you have to do.
Yeah.
And the have to do's are always about maintaining how you are. Okay. So it's about maintaining your own emotions. It's maintaining your own sort of sense of control over the day, because that's where it all goes wrong. When we sort of feel,
I know.
Totally
I mean,
out.
that's interesting about the lists, but also getting visitors involved. So how do parents get other people involved in, I guess, for the preparations, but also on the day as well?
Yeah. So most people who are coming to our home for Christmas are there because they're happy to do so. They're probably delighted to do so. So most people will be quite keen to help out in whatever way they can do. And it's us that restricts ourselves from asking them. It really is. And there's nothing wrong with saying to somebody, look, could you do some vegetables? Or could you make the vegetable soup? But be specific in what you're talking about. Again, it's about, don't expect people to know what you're hoping that they will do.
Yeah.
Just speak very clear about it. And it's always better to do that with clarity a couple of months or a couple of weeks before Christmas.
Yeah.
So maybe on Christmas Eve, you're not phoning somebody in and say, by the way, I meant to say, would you do the carrots and parsnips? So get them involved. And even if it's like, can you bring soft drinks, and be specific, bring 2 litre bottle, 2 litres, whatever it is, because that can help, and that takes the sort of pressure off you as well. And also, if somebody says to you, what can I do for you? What can I do to be involved? Tell them, tell them.
I have to say that I'm very bad at that. If someone says to me, well, what can I do? I think, oh no, I've got it under control.
Absolutely.
Everything's perfect.
Yeah. And it's back to that perfect thing. And the reality is the perfect, remember, is in our head.
Yeah.
So nobody, if you present a plate, nobody's going, well, this is a wee bit down from her idea of what it was supposed to look like. They're going, thank God I'm not having to do this for myself.
Yes. Yeah.
So get them involved. And it also can be really useful in family dynamics, which can be quite interesting at Christmas. So it can be about, if 2 people, spar off against each other, give them specific rules which might allow them to be, limited in their interaction with others as well. If you have children, get them involved. Can you look after Nana and Granddad? You give them, you pass around the quality street
very good.
1 sausage roll each, things like that. Get everybody involved.
Yeah.
But again, this is not the task to be thinking about on Christmas Day. This is the task that we need to have sort of worked out in our heads beforehand. And again, go back to our lists, stick that on the what I need to happen on Christmas Day, and break that up into 3 as well. So maybe little Johnny singing a beautiful poem is maybe list 3.
Yes.
Maybe little Johnny not throwing Coca-Cola over Granda is on list 1.
Yes.
So it's things like that. But remember that we restrict ourselves mostly. So ask people, because you know what, if they don't want to do it, or if they can't do it, they'll say, no, actually I can't do it.
Yeah. Actually, going back to the sort of the pressures and the stresses for parents coming up to Christmas, one of the things that I always find difficult is the present buying, and especially, I mean, my 2 are teenagers now, so it's got to a different stage. So when they were younger, we could have bought toys from Tesco and Asda and stuff, but now they're into electronics. That is a different pressure and a different amount of money. I mean,
absolutely.
What advice would you give parents about trying to limit what they spend, but also not thinking they have to get the latest gadget?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the have to the have to buys into the myth of the perfect Christmas. And here is the thing. If you're in a situation which many families are in Northern Ireland where money is tight, there really is a higher price than paying the cost of a PS4 if you can't afford it. Because if you're getting yourself into debt over Christmas, you know, it's not worth it. It really isn't, because it will impact you in other ways. So we're talking about family strains and stresses, you know, how can you connect when you're full of stress about debt and things like that. So here is the hard part about being a parent that we don't often talk about. Being a parent means whether you like it or not, you are a grown-up. You are a grown-up in a world that it's hard to be a grown-up, and half the time we don't want it, but we are. So sometimes it is about imparting the knowledge to your child and saying, no, you're not going to get that present. We're not saying no forever or whatever, you know, we're not, it's just, they don't have to get the most expensive electronic device.
Just you saying that, Julie, about telling your child you can't have it, that I actually feel a bit strained thinking about that, thinking, oh my goodness, that impacts on me as a parent.
But that's it. I mean, being a parent is about managing our own emotions so that we can, you know, co-regulate with a wee one. That's what being a parent is. You are the one that has to make the difficult decisions. Now, and nip that in the bud as well. If you know for a fact that you don't have the money for a big fancy electronic device, no child should be waking up on Christmas morning thinking they're going to get it. And of course it's age variant as well. So if you have little children, I would suggest, and it works, is if you get them at an early stage to write a list for Santa, okay? And maybe on that list you have 3 or 4 things, and there's an understanding that Santa will try to get you one thing off that list. And reinforce, this is back to that resilience, you know, it's about us. What happens if I don't get that big fancy present? You know, we're bringing these children into the world and we want them to be resilient. And part of that is knowing that their worth is not dependent on getting a big giant fancy Xbox. I am limited to PS4 and Xbox because that's all I know, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
But that's it. So a wee one can give a list for Santa with an understanding that they will get one off the list. And look, well and good if they get all of them off the list. But you know, the one should be enough, and within plenty of time they need to know that they're not getting the big expensive ones. And as parents, you know, remember what that's saying about us. What buttons is it pressing on us? I need to get them this fancy present or else I failed as a parent. No, you haven't. You really haven't. And that's about us managing our own emotions about that, and our own sort of expectations as well.
That is fantastic advice. In terms of, you know, if parents do get into financial problems with buying Christmas presents, I mean, is there help out there for them?
I mean, the first thing is no head stuck in sand. You know, that is the worst thing anybody can do with you know, if you're in financial problems, because that is what we intend to do. You know, that's what we normally do. We tend to do that. So, you know, it is about addressing that you are struggling financially. You know, there's lots of organisations that we have, are very lucky to have. Advice CiNI, there's debt advisory centres, there's community advice, all of these, money advice. You know, there's a lot of organisations who, let me tell you, are doing this day in, day out, because everybody's, you know, in a similar boat. There are also really good charities. If you feel now that you're struggling, you know, we have brilliant charities. You know, if charities and voluntary sector led down tomorrow, Northern Ireland would be in a very precarious situation. So there are brilliant organisations, DePaul, and even community in your local community, church groups. You know, go in now. Go in now and find out about it. Most of these organisations sort of work together, so you'll only have to go to one who'll let you know about the other one.
Very good.
But there is no shame in this, and you know, it is about reducing the worry, the stress, the added stress that we already live under. You know, because one of the things I think is really important, and I always say this to any parent that I work with, is we are containers. We're human beings. We are containers. You know, we have a level that we can contain. So
Yeah.
basically, think of it as marbles, think of it whatever way you want to. But when we are lying in bed, before we even get out of bed, we've already got quite a few wee bits and bobs in our container, right?
Yeah.
So, oh, did I wash the uniforms? Oh, I hate my job. Things
Yeah.
like that there. We haven't even got out of bed yet. So we've already got a few wee things going on in our container. And then we go downstairs. I don't want to go to school. Another few wee things.
Yes,
We're
yeah.
out the door. Somebody vomits and,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah.
All of these things. We're going up and up and up in our container of what we can reasonably contain before we sort of have a
Blow.
meltdown. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So then we haven't even got to drop them off, and we haven't even got to work yet. Then throw in a few little extra bits like maybe relationship challenges, money, hugely impactful. And then on top of that, now we've got I have to have a perfect Christmas with
Yeah.
organic turkey and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And one of the things that we have to be aware of is that we need to control that. And that is self-care. And self-care has got a fancy old reputation now, but all self-care is finding a tap that lets some of that out of your vessel. Okay? And that does not have to be a 3-day weekend in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
That can be a Jaffa cake with a cup of tea,
Yeah.
watching EastEnders, because that will cheer you up,
Yeah.
as we know. But, so it's about taking steps throughout all of our parenting journey to keep that container sort of relatively, that there's a bit at the top for the capacity.
Yes.
And I always think it's interesting with Christmas, because what words do we use about Christmas? Overindulge, overspend, overeat, overexcitement. All of these are sort of going, these
Yes.
are my container is overspilling.
Yeah.
And part of that is the grown-up, the hard, oh, I'm a grown-up, is that we have to look after our self-care. We have to be in charge of that.
Yeah.
And take control over it.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. And especially with my next question, which is about that overindulgence.
Yeah.
And when you go to the supermarket, I mean, there's this sort of siege mentality that the shops are going to be closed for a fortnight and they're open the
Exactly,
next
yeah.
day. And especially if you're shopping with your children, grocery shopping, and they throw things into the trolley and stuff. I mean, do you have any tips for parents to save the money and ensure that that doesn't happen?
Well, again, let's go back to our very important lists. Is that in our I have to do list, Also online shopping. You don't go, Why anybody would want to go into a supermarket with young children around Christmas, some of us have to.
Yes.
But, go, and a really good tip actually is to go with a list and with cash.
Oh, very good.
That's it. That go with a list and go with cash. And, be aware again that there's only so many sort of Terry's chocolate oranges you can eat, and that's part of, again, restricting what it is. So if the children, if they're going with you and they have to come, and they will be excited, their only way, they will be excited about Christmas things, put that in your, your budget, your cash budget that you bring with you. But again, it's back to that, why am I doing this,
Yeah.
And really the strength of that comes back, it's all connected. The strength of that comes back to the self-care about
Yes.
being resilient enough to go, no, actually, we're not buying that Thomas the Tank Engine chocolate
Yes.
Santa
Yeah.
train thing. You know what I mean? So avoid it if you can. Online shopping if you can, and bring cash, bring a list and bring cash in and out.
So, Julie, Christmas can be a difficult time for single parents or parents that are separated. Have you any advice that you can help those parents, especially, if the child is going to be with one but not the other, and then when it does, the child does go to the other parent, they can sometimes overcompensate with extra gifts and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's Christmas, it's back to that sort of, the family Christmas, what
Yeah.
we're fed, that it is very, very difficult for people with bereavement or parents who are separated and the contact arrangements, especially if there's acrimony, and
Yes.
especially if it's not all sort of, happy contact arrangements. The one thing I would say is you should know you should know what is happening this Christmas.
Okay.
So that has to be sorted out. If you cannot sort that out between yourselves, then you have to take steps to arrange that.
And when should people think about that, or should they be thinking about it now?
Well, I would like to think that you would know at this stage. A lot of parents, after the first arrangements are sorted out, will do it one Christmas on, one Christmas about. And again, that's if you're able to get to that connection and discuss about it. But the children also need to know as well. It's very important for children to be sort of clear on what's happening and be aware that as much as you hate it, it's back to that being a grown-up. These children, the priority is with them. So they will get a sense of you're being upset that you're going to be on your own. There might be questions about, well, what will you do? Be honest with them. Say, well, I will miss you, but, I will be fine. I'm going to do this and whatever. Take that sort of, a child shouldn't be sort of feeling responsible for how you are at Christmas. The other thing I always say to people is, Christmas is 25th of December is Christmas Day. Okay, but that does not mean you can't have Christmas in your house on the 19th of December or the 29th of December. You can have a Christmas celebration as well, So don't limit your enjoyment of that because it's a day. Obviously, it impacts, but it doesn't have to be, a complete loss of the Christmas feeling. And little children will love that. Well, what's not to, of course they will. But the key point of that is it goes back to, your child is the priority. So it's very hard. Nobody is saying for a single second that it's not. But this is where we have to be sort of sensible and focus on the needs of the child. That's what's paramount here. Bereavement is so difficult at Christmas. It really is. A lot of times what happens is people, it's almost like they think, well, I have to keep it all together because, I'm going to spoil Christmas for everyone. And I would always say, you've had a great loss. So there was a great love there. So you don't need to keep it in. You don't need to keep it in because the signal to everybody else, don't think that it's not sort of felt by everybody else. Everybody else absorbs that. So it's absolutely okay to say, do you know what, especially if we're talking younger children, I'm feeling a wee bit sad. I've had a wee cry, because we need to teach that to children as well.
It's okay. That
it's okay. And it does not, just because we don't want it to be, we feel as if we need to hide it. It comes with us, it comes with us, it's there. So a few wee things that I know people have worked successfully with is, say, for example, a wee tea light, and just say, right, this is, I'm going to light this wee tea light because this will remind us of Granny or Granda or Daddy or Mummy, or a wee flower or anything, or even a wee song that somebody likes. It's really important. It's almost like it's that pressure cooker of, I have to keep it together, I have to keep it together. That's really, really restrictive. So let's just say, this is hard for me, this is hard for all of us, but they're still here with us, and we don't need to hide the fact that we miss them. And if you have young children, and if it's a recent loss, of course, it's very, very difficult. And if you have young children, there's sometimes sort of like they expect, because Christmas is a whole different thing to them, and that can be really difficult. There are loads of organisations there to support you. Cruise is brilliant. If you've lost a child, there's a wonderful organisation whose name is a Compassionate, maybe I think it's Compassionate Friends.
Okay.
So there are lots of organisations there to support you on coming up to Christmas. And remember, you can always go in, Samaritans, you do what you need to do. But this is hard, and there's no point in saying it's not going to be hard. I mean, I've often experienced people who'll say it's the build-up is much, much worse than the day. So it's the thought, how am I going to get through? How am I going to get through? The actual day itself, peels, it's okay. But I mean, it's a very difficult time, and it's looking after yourself. It's that self-care. And of course, in Parentline, Northern Ireland, we are there for parents, on the run up to Christmas. Give us a call if you feel that you're getting too stressed about things. Phone us. That is what we are there for. And it can be just that sort of a voice not involved directly with your family that can be really helpful to sort of go, well, do you need to do that? Is this causing you too much stress? How are you? How are you going to get through today? So, use us.
Yeah. In terms of, being a mummy, sometimes I feel that I have to do everything, especially coming up to Christmas and on Christmas Day. And it puts a lot of pressure and stress on mummies. What can you suggest if that is the case, if a parent is feeling extremely stressed?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're right about the role of women still in Christmas, but we also have to say, have we got a voice as a woman to say, I ain't doing any more shopping. It's time for you to do it. Now, obviously, if you're a single parent, that can be very difficult, but we all still have people around us who can help us and support us. But be part, if you're part of a family and if you've got a partner and you've got a couple of older children, get them to do things, I love this notion of, sometimes what happens is Christmas Eve, somebody goes up the stairs and they have boiled an egg in March and shoved a sausage roll in a microwave in July, and on Christmas Day they come down and they're like Jean-Christophe, Jamie Oliver, Gordon Ramsay, I will cook the turkey.
Wonderful.
And that does happen a lot, and sometimes I'm saying okay, go for it. But it is again back to, why are we not allowing people to help us? Is it back to that I want to have a perfect Christmas, and that's where we go back to, forget the perfect Christmas. What you want to do is have a few pleasurable times over this period. And I would say, have a cutoff, as a family, have a cutoff point where if it's not done by now, it ain't being done.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
21st, 22nd, whatever's not done now, forget about it. But, older children can do things, But why can't older children peel a few vegetables or tidy their room or whatever it is? And partners need to be, part of it as well. And again, we need to be able to say, here, do you know what? Here's a special list for you as well.
Yeah.
So part of it is about recognizing that it's our restriction because we have this idea in our head of how it's going to be. And we have to be able to say, no, you can mash the potatoes.
Yes. Yeah.
I will allow you, and things like that.
So Julie, what would you say, just to finish, would be your top tips for parents watching?
So my top tips would be, first of all, get rid of the notion of the perfect Christmas, okay? So when I rule the world, I'm going to have Christmas cards that say, have a decent enough Christmas and not too much drama. Okay?
Brilliant.
That's it, because that's all we need to do. Number 2, budget and stick to it, okay? Budget and stick to it. Budget and stick to it.
That's 3 now.
That's 3 budgets, because we can go mad.
Yeah,
we can go mad, and we can go mad and daft things that the day after Christmas are going to be half price.
Yes,
True.
Very true.
Stick to a budget that you can afford, and also stick to a budget that you want to spend, and stick to it. Okay. And also, if you're going out on free events, a lot of times we go out to these free events, but we spend a fortune. Again, go back to the old cash.
Yes.
If you're going out to a free event, don't bring money with you, or bring £3, or bring your own snacks, things like that. So budget and stick to it. Number 3, that was my seek out free events. I rolled those into 2. But plan ahead. Now we need to know, this is the time to look at what events are in your area.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And find out where they are, because some of them might be ticketed even though they're free. Some schools do Santa Clauses and things that are a lot more reasonable than going to some fancy place for Santa as well. And number 4 would be Santa list early. So your Christmas presents and your Santa list early, because that's when oh my goodness, or like my son would ask for something 10th of December that has to be imported from, on Amazon, takes whatever days. So, get the Santa list in early, get your Christmas present list sorted out well in advance. Okay. Also use free gifts. Use free gifts. So is that saying to one of your children, you're going to make tea and toast? You know what I mean? Why do we? It doesn't
or you're
going to
offer a family member a free babysitting session or something like that?
Rather you than me, Ellen. I won't be doing that. But but it is about sort of, it doesn't all have to be monetary. It can be just things that you will do.
Very
you know.
good.
And also, if you're struggling financially, you can bet some of your family members are as well. So it can be that free babysitting that you're going to do.
Yeah.
But, you know, and say it beforehand too, you know, we're not buying big presents this year. You know, it's all about the preparation. Don't leave it to the last minute.
Yeah, okay.
And number 5, have a cut-off date and stick to it.
Okay.
You should be able to enjoy Christmas as well. And Christmas is not just the 25th of December. It's all the wee carol singing. It's all the wee Christmas walks. It's all going out for pine cones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You should enjoy it as well. So have a cut-off date and stick to it.
Okay, that is brilliant. Julie, thank you so much for that. Really
Very
fantastic
welcome.
tips. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening and watching another Parentline podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.